I've never been one to get spooked easily. Ghost stories were for other people. I grew up in a small town with normal parents, normal schools, and the kind of sleepovers where Bloody Mary was just a dare that made us laugh. I never thought I'd be the one telling a story like this. But something changed when we moved into this neighborhood. It was supposed to be a fresh start. My wife Sarah and I had just had our first kid, and we'd scraped together enough to leave the city behind. The place we found was almost too perfect. Quiet, clean, and safe. Rows of matching homes, tree-lined sidewalks, and well-trimmed hedges. The kind of place where you nod at your neighbors, borrow sugar, wave to the mailman. Just normal. Except one house wasn't. It was the one right next door. From the outside, it looked identical to ours. Same cream siding, same shutters, same stone path leading to the porch. But something about it always felt off. I didn't notice it at first, but the longer we lived here, the harder it became to ignore. The windows were always closed, tightly. Even on hot days when the whole neighborhood flung open their sashes trying to catch a breeze, that house stayed sealed. No cars in the driveway, no packages on the porch, no movement behind the curtain. And the lights would flicker on at weird times, 2:47 a.m., 4:12 a.m., always short bursts, sometimes just one window, sometimes all of them at once. Sarah noticed too. One night she asked, "Do you think someone actually lives there?" "I don't know," I told her. "Maybe they work night shifts." But it didn't sit right. One afternoon I saw someone. I had gone out to take the trash bins to the curb, and there he was, standing behind the living room window of that house. Pale face, thin shoulders. He was just staring. I raised my hand, friendly, gave a wave. No reaction. He didn't blink, didn't move, just kept staring until I finally looked away. When I looked back, he was gone. I told myself maybe he hadn't seen me. Maybe the glass was just tinted or something. A few days later, I saw him again, this time at the back of the house, standing in the yard near the fence that separated our properties. Still, watching. "Hi," I said. "We're your new neighbors, just moved in." He tilted his head slightly, like a dog hearing something strange. "You doing okay?" I added, awkwardly. Then he smiled. It was the kind of smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, the kind that stays in place too long. His lips parted, but instead of speaking, he turned and walked back toward his house. No hurry, just gone. Later that night, I stood at our kitchen sink doing dishes when I saw it again. The light. His living room lit up all at once, like someone had flipped every switch. But no shadows moved inside. Others summoned them. The doorbell rang. I jumped, dropping a plate. It shattered in the sink. Sarah peeked around the corner from the living room. "You gonna get that?" I nodded, drying my hands, heart pounding for no good reason. But when I opened the front door, no one was there. Only the porch. And a note, folded neatly, tucked under a rock. I picked it up, already chilled by the wind moving through the trees. The note said, "I live here too." That was all. No name, no explanation. Just 5 words, in clean, blocky handwriting, like someone printing it carefully so there could be no mistake. I turned and looked toward the neighbor's house. The lights were off again, every window shut, like always. I didn't tell Sarah about the note that night. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt ridiculous, like I was feeding into something that had no business being real. Or maybe because I saw the baby monitor on the coffee table, our daughter asleep upstairs, and suddenly didn't want to say anything that might bring that energy into our home. But I kept the note, folded it twice and slipped it into my desk drawer. Out of sight, not out of mind. The next morning, I stood by the window brushing my teeth and watched the neighbor's house. Still no movement, no car, no newspaper picked up, but something had shifted. There were footprints in the frost, not just from the back door to the yard like I might have expected, but all around, circling the house, one set. Pacing almost, like someone was walking laps in the dark, barefoot from the look of it. I tried to convince myself it was a stray dog, a delivery guy with weird habits, a prank. But none of that explained why the prints stopped at our front steps, as if whoever made them had stood there for a while, just staring at our door. That evening, I broke. I walked over. I told Sarah I was going to get the mail, then headed straight to the neighbor's porch. I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. Knock? Leave a note of my own? Demand an explanation? But when I got to the door, I froze. There was a name on the mailbox, Harlan D. Foster. Not a name I recognized, but maybe the guy I saw behind the glass. I raised my hand to knock. The door opened before I touched it. Just a crack, and no one behind it. "Hello?" I said. Nothing. I leaned in slightly. The air was colder, staler, smelled like wet stone and old wood, the kind of scent you find in basements or abandoned places. Then, quietly from the shadows of the hallway inside, I heard, "I told you, I live here too." I stepped back hard, stumbled off the porch and nearly twisted my ankle. The door creaked shut behind me without a sound. I didn't go back. That night, I checked online, searched the address, public records, anything I could find. After some digging, I found a neighborhood forum thread archived from 5 years ago. A post caught my eye. "Is anyone else having trouble with the guy in the Foster house?" The replies were cryptic, people saying things like, "That place is empty. Has been since the fire. You're seeing things, just ignore it. We moved away, you should too." I read it over 3 times. The fire? I tried digging deeper, but the rest was locked behind paywalls and buried in old property records. And I made another mistake. I told Sarah, not everything, but I showed her the note. She looked at it, puzzled more than afraid. "You think it's from the guy next door?" I nodded. I saw him again. He said it through the door this time. Same thing. She looked over at the neighbor's house. "But that place is empty, right? I haven't seen anyone go in or out in weeks." I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. That night, we went to bed early. It was snowing, soft flakes drifting down like ash. I remember thinking how quiet everything was, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. Then, around 2:00 a.m., the baby monitor clicked on with a sharp burst of static. Sarah and I both sat up. A second later, it cleared, and someone began humming through it. Not the baby. Not either of us. A deep, tuneless hum. Male, slow, intentional. Heck. I grabbed the monitor and ran into the nursery. Sarah was close behind me. Our daughter was still asleep in her crib. Peaceful. Fine. But the window was open. Wide open. Snow had blown across the floor in a perfect arc, and on the windowsill, another note. "I told you. This is my house too." The moment I saw that note on the windowsill, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't just fear, it was recognition. Like some part of me already knew this was coming. Sarah didn't say a word. She picked up our daughter, held her close, and backed out of the room while I stood there staring at the window, still open, letting in the snow, letting in him. Whoever he was. Whatever he was. We didn't sleep that night. I sat in the hallway outside the nursery with a bat across my lap and my back against the wall. Sarah lay curled up on the couch, the baby nestled in her arms. Every creak in the house made me flinch. Every gust of wind made me tighten my grip on the bat. Nothing happened, but nothing happening felt worse. By sunrise, we both looked like we'd aged 10 years overnight. I called the police around 6:30. They came out 2 hours later. took a statement, checked the nursery window, said it could have been left unlocked, that maybe a strong wind blew it open. I asked if they'd checked the neighbor's house. They did. They walked the perimeter, peeked through the windows, came back looking bored. There's no signs of entry, the officer told me. And no one inside. The place is vacant, just like the listing says. Probably some squatters moved through at one point, but right now, it's clean. I didn't know how to argue. He wasn't lying, but he wasn't right either. Sarah and I agreed we'd leave, just for the weekend. Get some space, clear our heads. I booked a cabin about an hour north, but when I stepped outside to start packing the car, the neighbor's door was wide open again, and something was hanging from the porch light. I stepped closer. It was a photograph, an old Polaroid clipped there with a rusted clothespin. It showed two houses, ours and his. Same trees, same yard, same cracked sidewalk, except both houses had a red X painted on the front door. In the photo, our front door was open and was standing on the porch. When it wasn't us. It looked like us. Same clothes, same stance, but the versions in the photo looked off, washed out, colorless. Their faces were blurred, hollow, wrong. I tore the photo down and went straight inside. I didn't tell Sarah. We drove out that afternoon, but the whole way up, I felt like we were being followed. No cars behind us, no lights, just this presence, like something was watching from the back seat. We spent 2 nights at the cabin, trying to pretend we were normal again. We played board games, watched old movies, and laughed too loud. But I kept hearing footsteps, not inside, around the cabin, circling, crunching the snow, pausing by the windows. I checked every time, nothing there. On the 3rd morning, we returned home. When we pulled into the driveway, something stopped me cold. The windows on the neighbor's house were different. All of them had been replaced. Same glass, same frames. But now they were mirrored. Reflective. Like someone wanted to see out but never let you see in. And then I saw the writing on our own garage door. Spray painted in red, "Which house is yours?" It took everything in me not to just drive away. But Sarah was already unbuckling the baby's car seat, pretending not to notice the words on the garage. Or maybe she didn't see them. I didn't point them out. I went around back and took the long way into the house. Got the paint thinner, scrubbed it off before she noticed. It came off easier than it should have. The red paint felt wet, like it had just been sprayed even though we'd been gone for days. That night, the power flickered. Once. Twice. Then the house went dark. I stood at the living room window, staring into the cul-de-sac. All the other houses were black. Everyone else already asleep or gone. All except one, the neighbor's house. The porch light was on. So were the kitchen lights in the living room. A soft yellow glow leaked through the curtains, shimmering faintly behind those mirrored windows. It felt wrong, like the lights weren't just on, but watching. I saw a silhouette move behind the curtain. Slow, deliberate. I should have looked away. I didn't. The figure moved closer to the window. I stepped back. Something in me wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I just stood there, staring, as the curtain twitched, like fingers pulling it open just a sliver, and that same pale, emotionless face stared back at me. It didn't blink, didn't move. It was just there. Not 5 seconds later, the power in our house flicked back on. The neighbor's lights turned off at the same time, like someone had flipped a switch for both of us. I didn't tell Sarah. I didn't sleep either. In the morning, I went over there. Just walked across the lawn and up to the porch like I had every right to be there. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I wanted to see it was empty again. Maybe I was hoping to be proven crazy. I knock. No answer. I jiggled the handle. Still locked. Then I bent down and looked under the mat, expecting nothing. There was a key. Old, rusted, still warm. I stood there for a long time before unlocking the door. Inside, it smelled of wet wood and dust, like the air hadn't been moved in years. The floorboards creaked as I stepped in. The living room was almost identical to ours. Same layout, same furniture placement, same chipped molding near the baseboards. But the pictures on the walls, they were different. Not family photos, not paintings, just mirrors. Framed mirrors in every room. Some cracked, some warped, all of them tilted ever so slightly toward the center of the house, like they were watching something or reflecting something that didn't want to be seen. I stepped deeper inside. That rhythmic creaking sound followed me from the floorboards until I realized it wasn't my footsteps anymore. It was coming from upstairs. I turned the corner and looked up the staircase. I looked back down as if seeing it for the first time. Same pale face, same hollow stare. But this time, it smiled. And I heard my own voice, quiet but unmistakable, whisper, "I've been living here longer than you." I couldn't move. That smile, it didn't belong on any living face. It stretched too wide, like something trying to imitate human expression but failing miserably. My own voice echoed down the stairwell again. "I've always been here." The figure at the top of the stairs took a step forward. I backed away instinctively, hand groping for the doorknob behind me, but when I turned to run, the door was gone. I don't mean it was locked. I mean it was gone, replaced by another mirror, my reflection staring back at me, warped and flickering like a bad VHS tape. My face, my real face, looked afraid, but the reflection, it smiled. Behind me, the floor creaked again. The thing that wore my face was coming down the stairs slowly, deliberately, each step groaning under its weight. But the sound didn't match the pace. It echoed. Wrong, too loud, like the sound was coming from beneath the floor instead of on it. I ran deeper into the house. The layout should have been identical to ours, but nothing was where it should have been. Hallways twisted, rooms connected to each other in impossible ways. I turned through a kitchen and ended up in a bedroom. Tried the closet door and found myself back in the foyer. And through every mirror I passed, my reflection followed, but not exactly. In one, I was standing still when I was moving. In another, I wasn't alone. In every reflection, something else was standing just behind me. I finally found a door, different from the others, wooden with claw marks near the bottom and a faint humming sound from behind it. It was cold to the touch, ice cold. I turned the knob and stepped into my own living room. Same couch, same baby toys, Sarah's coffee mug on the table still warm. The front door was back where it belonged, but something was off. The air felt too still. The lights were on, but they didn't buzz. The baby monitor was silent. The ticking of the clock was missing. And Sarah stood by the window holding our son. She didn't turn around, just kept staring out through the glass. "Sarah?" I whispered. She didn't move. I walked up beside her. Outside, across the lawn, the neighbor's house stood dark again. But on the porch stood me. Another me, smiling, waving. I turned to Sarah, panicked. "We need to go, now." She finally looked at me, and her eyes were completely black. Not like bruised or dilated, just gone, hollow, like twin voids. She opened her mouth, and my voice came out. "I told you, I've been living here longer than you." The lights exploded. I blacked out. When I woke up, it was morning. I was lying on the floor of the neighbor's house, alone, every mirror cracked, dust settling around me like I hadn't moved in days. I stumbled out the front door. The cul-de-sac was silent. Sarah's car was gone. My house? Empty. Windows broken. Dust on every surface. No toys, no crib, no coffee cup. Like we'd never moved in. Or maybe, like we'd been gone a long, long time. I walked back to the neighbor's porch and looked up at the door. New paint. A single word written in fresh black letters. Mind. And behind the curtain, something pale moved, watching me, still smiling.